Some towns are missing for a reason. No road signs, no listings, no record they were ever there. You can drive straight into them, buy gas, grab food, talk to the locals, and still never find proof they exist once you leave. Tonight on Dark Hours, we're uncovering 3 small towns that don't exist on maps, places people swear they visited, but no one can ever find again. If you're new here, subscribe to Dark Hours for true horror, lost places, and stories best told after dark. And tell me in the comments, are you watching from a small town, or somewhere the map actually shows? Now dim the lights, and let's begin. My name is Evan Rourke, and the last time I trusted a shortcut, I watched a town disappear in my rearview mirror like it had never been there at all. I still don't know how to explain the way the mile markers stopped making sense, how 162 came after 209, and how my GPS kept insisting I was parked in the middle of a lake. I was driving west on a 2-lane desert highway with the kind of straightness that makes you feel like you're not moving, just aging inside a sun-baked corridor. I'd left Albuquerque before dawn for a delivery job. Nothing glamorous, just contracted courier work that paid by the mile. A medical supply drop to a clinic outside Flagstaff, the kind of route you could drive half asleep. The van was loaded with sealed coolers and paperwork I wasn't allowed to open. The AC rattled like it was coughing itself to death. Outside, the desert kept its distance. Scrub brush, flat stones, a few skeletal billboards promising fireworks or salvation. By noon, heat shimmered off the asphalt hard enough to distort the horizon. My phone had been losing bars in slow, predictable waves, like it was breathing. When the battery hit 20%, I plugged it in. It didn't charge. The charger icon blinked once, then vanished. I tried a different cable, same thing. The screen dimmed like it was tired of pretending. Of course, I muttered, tapping the dash like the van had done it on purpose. Great. I was still more than 100 miles from Flagstaff. I told myself the van's USB port had finally died. Nothing supernatural about it. Then my GPS rerouted. No warning, no polite, make a U-turn when possible. It just spun the map like a compass needle going mad and drew a thick blue line off the main highway onto a thin gray line that looked like it hadn't been updated since dial-up internet. Farm Road 6. I glanced out. There it was, an unmarked turnoff, a narrow strip of pavement cutting into the desert like a scar. No sign, no reflective post, just a road that seemed to start mid-thought. I slowed, skeptical. The main highway stretched behind me, and ahead like a ribbon. There was no traffic, no reason to leave it. But my gut did that thing it does when you've worked enough delivery jobs. A quiet, practical anxiety about time windows and penalties. I had a hard delivery deadline. The clinic had a staff member waiting to sign. If I was late, the contractor would dock my pay. If I was too late, they'd flag me. I turned onto Farm Road 6. Immediately, the radio lost its station. A country song dissolved into static. I turned the dial. Static. I scanned. Every frequency was the same. A dry hiss and, underneath it, something that almost sounded like a voice trying to speak through a wet cloth. I shut it off. The road narrowed as if it resented being used. The pavement was intact but older, with faint cracks stitched across it. After a mile, the desert changed. Not dramatically, just subtly enough that I noticed. The scrub thickened, the air felt heavier, like the heat had turned humid without permission. And then the mile markers started lying. I passed one that read mile 209. A few minutes later, another, mile 174, then mile 188. The numbers looked sun-faded, but the metal was newer than the highway's posts. Like someone had replaced them and mixed up the order. My GPS began to stutter, the arrow wobbling. The screen flashed a message, recalculating, then searching for signal. Then a blank gray grid as if the map had been erased. I kept driving. A delivery driver's worst fear isn't ghosts or monsters. It's a dead van in the middle of nowhere with perishable cargo and no signal. I saw the town 20 minutes later. At first, it looked like a mirage. Low buildings pressed against the horizon, the air around them shimmering. Then it sharpened into something real, an actual cluster of structures around a water tower. A sign stood beside the road, leaning slightly, painted white with black letters. Welcome to Marrow. POP 1102. Please drive slow. I'd never heard of Marrow, and I'd grown up in New Mexico, driven half the Southwest for work. I knew most small towns, even the ones you only stopped in for gas and regret. But this sign looked official. The letters were crisp, the edges newly painted. Someone cared about it. The road fed directly into the town's main street. The first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Not just no traffic, quiet in a way the desert rarely is. No cicadas, no wind. Even my tires seemed to roll softer, muted by something I couldn't see. The second thing I noticed was the smell. Sun-warmed creosote, yes, but layered with something else. Old paper, dust, and a faint medicinal bite like rubbing alcohol. Buildings lined the street, a diner, a hardware store, a small grocery, a post office. They looked preserved, like a movie set built to mimic an American town, but done with too much sincerity to be a set. A few people stood on the sidewalks, not many, maybe a dozen within sight, but every single one of them was watching my van. Not glaring, not hostile, just attentive, like I'd arrived for an appointment. I rolled past the diner. Its windows were bright, curtains pulled back. A neon sign buzzed faintly, "Open." But I couldn't hear the buzz. I saw it. That bothered me. I found a parking spot near the grocery and cut the engine. The sudden silence hit like a pressure change. The van's ticking cooled metal felt louder than it should have. I sat there a moment, hands on the steering wheel, feeling the irrational urge to lock the doors. Just gas, I told myself. Ask for directions, get back en route. I stepped out into the heat. The air wasn't as hot as it should have been. It was warm, yes, but tempered, like the sun was shining through a filter. Shadows were sharp, too sharp, as if cut with a blade. A man stood across the street in front of the post office. He wore a pale shirt and suspenders, and his hair was neatly combed, damp at the temples. He looked like a man from an old photograph who'd learned to breathe. He lifted a hand in a small wave. I waved back because that's what you do when someone waves, even if your skin is crawling. I walked into the grocery. A bell over the door should have chimed. It didn't. The shelves were stocked with cans and jars that looked wrong. The labels were familiar in shape but not in words, like someone had recreated brands from memory and missed the details. A woman stood behind the counter. She was middle-aged, hair pinned back, wearing a cardigan despite the warm air. Her face held a polite smile that didn't quite meet her eyes. "Afternoon," she said. Her voice sounded normal. That grounded me a little. "Hi," I replied. "Do you know if there's a gas station in town? I'm headed toward Flagstaff." She tilted her head slightly, as if I'd said something in a language she only half understood. "Flagstaff," she repeated softly. "That's far." "Yeah, I took a shortcut. My GPS is acting up. Is there a way back to the main highway?" Her smile tightened by a fraction. "We don't get many folks passing through." "I can tell," I said with a nervous little laugh that came out thin. She leaned forward a bit, hands on the counter. Her nails were clean, neatly trimmed. Everything about her seemed curated. "What's your name?" she asked. The question landed wrong, too soon, too personal, but I gave it anyway because I didn't want to offend the only person who might tell me where the gas was. "Evan." "Evan," she echoed, like tasting it. "I'm Mrs. Lyle. You're in Marrow." "Yeah, I saw the sign." She watched me closely. "Do you have family here?" I blinked. "No, I've never been here." Her eyes flicked downward toward my chest as if checking for something. A badge, a pin, a name tag, something. "You're sure?" she asked. "I'm sure." Behind me, the door opened. I didn't hear it. I only felt the shift in air. A man stepped in, older, sun-leathered, wearing a cap. He stopped just inside and stared at me with an expression that wasn't curiosity. It was assessment. Mrs. Lyle didn't look at him, but her smile didn't move. "You're traveling alone," she said. "Yeah." The older man spoke, voice low. "He's got the look." "The look?" I repeated, trying to keep it light. "What's that supposed to mean?" Mrs. Lyle's smile widened a touch, the look of someone who hasn't decided to stay yet. A chill walked up my spine, slow and deliberate. "I'm not staying," I said. "I just need gas and directions." Mrs. Lyle lifted her hand and pointed toward the back wall where a bulletin board hung. Flyers were pinned there. Lost dogs, church gatherings, job openings. One caught my eye because it was newer, the paper clean and bright. It was a missing person flyer, except the picture on it, grainy, like an old photocopy, was me. Not exactly me, but close enough that my stomach dropped. Same dark hair, same narrow face, same tired eyes. The name beneath it read, Evan Rourke. Missing since October 12, 1999. I stared at it until my eyes watered. That's not possible, I whispered. Mrs. Lyle watched my reaction as if it confirmed something. People come through, she said gently. Sometimes they come through again. The older man stepped closer behind me. I smelled dust and something metallic on him, like old coins. You're late, he said. I backed away from the counter, heart punching my ribs. Take it down, I snapped, louder than I meant. That's not funny. Mrs. Lyle's eyes softened in a way that made my skin crawl more, like pity. It isn't funny, she said. It's how this works. I turned and bolted for the door. Outside, the street looked the same, sunlight, quiet buildings, a few watchers, but now every face seemed slightly turned toward me, like a field of flowers tracking the sun. I jogged to my van, yanked the handle. Locked. I stared. I never lock it on deliveries unless I'm in a bad neighborhood, and this, whatever it was, wasn't that. I tried again, harder, locked. My keys were in my hand. I hit the unlock button. Nothing. No beep, no lights. A voice behind me, calm and close. It won't open if it doesn't want to. I spun. A young woman stood there, maybe 20, hair braided, eyes pale and unreadable. She held a paper cup like she'd just walked out of the diner. What? I demanded. She sipped. Machines don't work right here, not if they're trying to leave. You're insane! She shrugged, like it didn't matter if I believed her. You found marrow, that means the road wanted you. The road doesn't want anything. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. My name is Tessa. I found it 2 years ago. My boyfriend did the driving. He thought it was a shortcut. My throat tightened. What happened to him? She looked past me, down the street toward the end of town where the buildings thinned and the desert waited. He went looking for the highway, she said. He came back, but he wasn't the same. He didn't remember me. He didn't remember the year. He kept asking why the radio was broken. Why don't you leave? Tessa's mouth twitched. Because leaving isn't a door you open, it's a door you're allowed. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. A key fob. Modern. Like mine. She pressed it. The van's lights flashed once. My breath caught. How did you? I keep it, she said. It's the only way I get to feel like I could. She stepped toward the driver's side and pressed her palm to the door like she was soothing an animal. Then she looked at me. Do you want to see the water tower? No. You should. I should have run. I should have sprinted out of town on foot and trusted the desert more than this place. But something about the way everyone watched, like waiting for my choice, made my legs heavy. Tessa walked. I followed, because I didn't know what else to do. The water tower stood behind the buildings, its metal legs rusted, the tank painted with marrow and faded letters. Beneath it was a small concrete pad and a hatch in the ground, like an access point. Tessa crouched and lifted the hatch with effort. A breath of cooler air rose from below, carrying that same smell, dust, paper, antiseptic. Down there, she said. That's where the town keeps its names. I stared into the darkness. A ladder descended. I could just make out the first few rungs, damp with condensation. You're telling me there's, what, a basement full of records? Tessa nodded. Why would I go down there? Because you saw your flyer, she said, and now you know. If you don't understand it, you'll keep trying to rationalize, and marrow loves that. It feeds on it. I swallowed. The silence around us felt thicker here, as if the town's breath held. What happens if I don't go? I asked. Tessa's eyes flicked to the hatch, then back. Then they'll invite you to dinner. They'll be kind. They'll ask questions, and by morning you'll forget what year it is and you'll stop thinking about maps. My mouth went dry. Why are you helping me? I asked. Tessa's gaze hardened. Because I remember what it felt like, and because sometimes it lets one person go if another stays. The words hit me like cold water. You mean? She nodded once. Trade. I stepped back, heart hammering. No, I'm not doing that. Tessa's face didn't change. Then you'll stay anyway, just slower. I looked down at the hatch again. The ladder weighted like a throat. I thought of the missing flyer with my face on it, dated 1999. I was born in 1995. I'd been 4 years old in 1999. There was no version of reality where that made sense. Unless the town didn't care about sense, unless it only cared about patterns. I gripped the ladder and started down. The air cooled as I descended. The darkness swallowed the daylight quickly. My phone's flashlight flickered on when I tapped it, then sputtered and died, leaving me with only faint light filtering from above. At the bottom was a corridor, concrete walls, damp, with shelves running along both sides. The shelves were filled with file boxes. Hundreds, thousands, each box labeled with a name. Some were handwritten, some were typed, some were old enough the ink had browned. I walked slowly, reading. Martin Klein, Sophie Dent, Jason Morales, Tessa Harris. I stopped at hers. The box was newer, the label clean. Then I found mine. Evan Rourke. My hands shook as I pulled it out. It was heavier than it should have been, like paper and something else. I opened it. Inside were photographs, Polaroids, printed photos, even a few glossy modern shots. All of me, at different ages, different clothes, different hair lengths. In some, I was smiling at someone off camera. In others, I looked exhausted, eyes hollow. There were documents too, copies of IDs, forms, delivery manifests, even a handwritten page that looked like a diary entry. I read the top line and felt my blood turn thin. My name is Evan Rourke, and I thought I knew every town within 100 miles of where I grew up. It was my voice on paper, my phrasing, my cadence. I flipped through more pages. The diary entries grew stranger, more frantic. Mentions of marrow, mentions of clocks stuck at 3:17, mentions of people smiling too long. And at the bottom of the box was a map. Not a real map, a hand-drawn one, a crude sketch of roads and desert, and one marked point labeled Marrow. In the corner, a note. If you find this, it found you again. Don't trust the road out. The first exit is a loop. The second exit is a test. The third exit is a lie. There is only one way back. Leave something of yourself here. I heard a sound above. Metal scraping, the hatch shifting. Tessa's voice drifted down, softer now. Evan? I called up, voice raw. What is this place? A pause, then, a town that collects the people it can't keep. That doesn't mean anything. It means you're in a box already, she said. You just haven't closed the lid. My throat tightened. I looked at the pages again, the diary entry that started exactly the way I would start a story. I felt something cold settle behind my eyes, a realization I didn't want. How many times? I whispered to myself. The photographs answered. Too many. Different versions of me, captured like insects pinned. I heard footsteps above, muffled, then another voice, Mrs. Lyle's, floating down like a prayer. Evan, she called. Come back up when you're ready. Ready. Like this was a decision. Like consent mattered here as long as it was eroded slowly enough. I stared at my box, at my name, at the sentence that began like an introduction. I thought about leaving something of myself here. I didn't have blood to spill, no ritual dagger, no dramatic sacrifice, just me. So I did the only thing I could think of. I took the diary pages, every page that described fear, every page that remembered my life outside, and I tore them in half. Then quarters, then scraps. My hands worked fast, desperate, like shredding evidence. I shoved the scraps back into the box, mixing them, ruining the narrative. And then I found the photographs and bent them until they creased, until faces warped, until I couldn't recognize myself. When my breathing steadied, I closed the lid. I left the box on the shelf, but not in its place. I shoved it behind other boxes, deeper, out of order. Then I climbed the ladder. At the top, the hatch was open. Tessa stood above, her face unreadable. Behind her, farther back, Mrs. Lyle and the older man waited, patient as furniture. Tessa offered her hand. I took it and pulled myself out. Mrs. Lyle smiled. Did you find what you needed? I stood, dirt on my palms, heart pounding. I found lies. Mrs. Lyle's smile didn't falter. We keep what comes to us. I looked at the water tower, at the bright sky, at the town that felt like a held breath. I'm leaving, I said. The older man chuckled softly. Of course you are. Tessa stepped close, whispering so only I could hear. Remember the note. 3 exits. How do I know which is which? You don't, she said. You feel it, and you don't look back. I ran to my van. This time, when I hit the key fob, the doors unlocked with a familiar click that nearly made me cry. I got in, started the engine. The radio came on by itself. Static, and beneath it, that muffled voice again. But now I could make out words, faint and looping. Welcome, welcome. Welcome. I shut it off and threw the van into gear. As I drove out of Marrow, the buildings thinned, the desert opened, the road stretched ahead, straight and unassuming. At the edge of town, a new sign stood facing outward, painted white with black letters. "Thank you for visiting Marrow. Come back soon." I didn't slow. I didn't look back. The first exit came fast, an on-ramp to a wider highway that looked correct, familiar. I took it. Within minutes, I saw the Marrow sign again. My stomach dropped. Loop. I kept driving, refusing to panic, taking the next road out of town without stopping. The second exit was a dirt track that cut through low hills. I followed it until my tires kicked up dust and the van rattled. The road ended at a dry riverbed. My GPS flickered on for one glorious second, showing a blue dot trapped inside a blank gray void. Then it died again. I reversed, hands slick on the wheel, and found the paved road once more, taking the third exit. Another strip of asphalt that seemed older, narrower, less real. The desert on either side grew darker, the sky dimming like someone turned down the brightness. I drove for what felt like an hour, then 2. The fuel gauge didn't move. The sun didn't move either. A dread so quiet it felt like acceptance crept into my chest. I realized the town wasn't behind me or ahead of me. It was around me, inside the road itself. The van's clock read 3:17. It stayed there. No matter how long I drove, it stayed there. At some point, the asphalt turned smooth again. I crested a hill and saw a familiar sign, green, reflective, blessedly modern, I-40 East, 12 miles. I laughed, a broken sound. Relief hit so hard my hands trembled. I drove until I merged onto the interstate and saw other cars, real cars, moving fast. My phone gained signal. Notifications exploded onto the screen. I didn't stop until Flagstaff. I delivered the coolers. The clinic worker signed without looking up. "You okay?" she asked, noticing my shaking hands. "Yeah," I lied. "Just a long drive." That night in my motel, I searched for Marrow. No results, no listings, no coordinates, no mention. I searched for the missing person flyer. Nothing. I pulled up my delivery logs. The route showed a straight line from Albuquerque to Flagstaff, no detours. I told myself I'd hallucinated it. Heat stroke, stress, a weird dream woven into the monotony. Then I checked my dashcam footage. The file existed. The timestamp matched the hours I'd been gone. But when I played it back, the video showed nothing but the inside of my van. Hands on the wheel, the road ahead blurred into a flat gray smear, like the camera couldn't focus on reality. And over the audio, clear as day, was my own voice. Calm, steady, speaking like I was recording something for someone else. "My name is Evan Rourke," the recording said, and I thought I knew every town within 100 miles of where I grew up. I sat on the motel bed in the blue light of the laptop, listening to myself begin the story again. Then the audio continued, words I hadn't said. "But there are towns that don't exist on maps," my voice murmured, "because maps are for places that let you leave." The screen froze on a single frame. In the reflection of the windshield, faint but unmistakable, I saw a sign behind me. "Welcome to Marrow." And in the passenger seat, just for that frozen instant, someone sat smiling quietly, hands folded, watching me drive. It looked like Tessa, or it looked like me. I couldn't tell which was worse. My name is Jonah Mercer, and I've driven mountain passes in every season, in every kind of weather, without ever feeling like the road was alive. But the night I saw lanterns glowing in a town that shouldn't exist, the snow didn't feel like weather anymore. It felt like something closing in. I was hauling a small trailer up through Colorado in late November, moving my sister's things from a storage unit after she'd vanished. That's the truth. I don't say out loud often. Mara disappeared, and the police shrugged like she'd fallen off the edge of the world, and they didn't feel like looking down. No body, no car, no bank activity, just absence. She'd been the kind of person who always texted back, even if it was just a thumbs up, even if she was angry. She never left silence hanging. So when her landlord called me, 2 weeks behind on rent, apartment empty except for a few clothes and her favorite mug, I drove out and cleaned up what was left because someone had to. I rented a trailer, loaded boxes, and started heading back east, choosing the mountain route because the interstate traffic was a mess and I wanted time alone to think. The weather report promised light snow. By dusk, it was no longer light. Snow thickened into heavy sheets. The sky turned the color of bruised steel. My headlights caught swirling white that made the world feel narrow and close. The road climbed, twisting between rock faces and dark pine. No cell signal. No radio. Only static and, occasionally, a faint repeating tone like a test broadcast. I should have turned back, found a motel, waited it out. But grief makes you stubborn. It makes you think endurance is the same thing as progress. The pass sign loomed through the snow. Elevation 11,403, drive with caution. The trailer fishtailed once. My hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles white. Then ahead, I saw lights. Warm lights. Not the cold reflected glare of snowplows. Not the harsh LED of highway signs. These were soft and yellow, like lamps in windows. A town on the pass. I frowned, slowing. There shouldn't be a town up here. Not at this elevation, not this close to the ridge, but I saw rooftops under snow, a main street lined with lanterns hanging from posts. A wooden sign emerged from the swirling white. Welcome to St. Elias, rest for the weary. I don't know why that phrase hit so hard, maybe because I was weary in a way sleep couldn't fix. I turned in. The road dipped slightly into a sheltered hollow, and suddenly the snow eased, not stopped, still falling, but calmer, like the town sat inside a pocket where the storm couldn't fully reach. Buildings lined the street, a lodge with big windows glowing amber, a small cafe, a shop with quilts displayed, a church with a steeple like a finger pointing into darkness. White lanterns hung from posts, each a glass globe with a flame inside, no electric bulbs, actual flame. I parked in front of the lodge. The tires crunched on packed snow, my breath fogged in the cold. The lodge door opened before I reached it. A woman stepped out, bundled in a thick coat. She was older, maybe late 50s, hair silver under a knit cap. She smiled like she'd been expecting me. "Come in," she called over the wind. "You'll freeze out there." I hesitated. What town is this?" "St. Elias," she said, as if it were obvious. "You're lucky. The pass eats people in storms like this." Something in her phrasing snagged me, but I pushed it down. "Do you have a room?" I asked. "Of course," she said warmly. "Always." Inside, the lodge was too warm, the heat wrapping around me like a blanket. The air smelled of wood smoke and cinnamon. A fire crackled in a stone hearth. People sat in armchairs, sipping from mugs, talking quietly. It felt normal. Too normal. A man behind the front desk looked up, smiling. He wore a vest and tie like an old-fashioned innkeeper. His hair was dark, slicked back. His eyes were pale. "Name?" he asked. "Jonah Mercer." His smile paused, just for a fraction, then resumed. "Jonah," he repeated softly. "Yes, we have you." A chill pricked my skin despite the heat. "You have me?" He glanced down at a ledger on the desk. "Room's ready. Sign here." The ledger was old leather, thick pages, names written in ink that ranged from fresh to faded brown. I felt a sudden surge of déjà vu so strong it made me dizzy, like I'd stepped into someone else's story. The man slid a pen toward me. I looked at the page. Names, dates, room numbers. And one line halfway down written in neat old script, "Mara Mercer, room 12. My throat closed. "What is that?" The man's eyes stayed calm. "Your sister. She stayed with us." My hands began to shake. "That's not possible." "It is," he said gently. "This is where weary travelers come." I leaned closer, staring at the line. Mara's name. My sister's name. "Where is she?" I demanded, voice rising. The lounge quieted. Conversations stopped. The crackle of the fire suddenly felt loud. The woman who'd welcomed me stepped closer, placing a hand on my shoulder like comfort. "She's resting," she said softly. My heart hammered. "Resting where?" "In St. Elias," she replied, as if I were being slow. I pulled away. "I need to see her." The man behind the desk nodded once. "Of course, after you check in." I stared at the pen, the ledger, the line that would make this official. My sister's disappearance had hollowed me out. Any clue, any thread, felt like oxygen. But something in me screamed that this was wrong. "I'm not signing anything," I said. The innkeeper's smile thinned. "Then you can't stay." "I don't care. I just want my sister." The woman's hand returned to my shoulder, firmer now. "Jonah," she murmured, voice low. "Be polite." Her tone wasn't threatening, but the room around us had shifted, people watching with the same calm attention as a jury. I backed away from the desk. "Where's room 12? The innkeeper sighed, like a teacher dealing with a difficult student. "Upstairs, but it's not for you unless you check in." My mind raced. The storm outside was still raging. My trailer was loaded with Mara's things, her clothes, her books, her mug, evidence of her life without her. And here, in a town that shouldn't exist, her name sat inked into a ledger like a neat solution. I turned and walked toward the staircase anyway. No one stopped me. That was the worst part. The stairs creaked under my boots. The hallway upstairs was lined with doors, each with a brass number. The carpet smelled faintly of dust and lavender. I found room 12. My hand hovered over the knob. A whisper of fear slid under my ribs. What if I opened it and saw nothing, or something wearing Mara's face? I turned the knob. Unlocked. Inside, the room was dim, lit by a small lamp. The bed was neatly made. A suitcase sat on a chair, old-fashioned and scuffed, and on the bedside table next to a folded brochure for St. Elias sat a mug. Mara's mug, white ceramic with a chip on the rim painted with a stupid smiling cat she'd loved. I'd packed it in a box. I'd sealed that box in the trailer. My breath hitched. I stepped closer, fingers trembling, and touched it. Warm. As if someone had just held it. A voice behind me made my blood turn cold. "Jonah?" I spun. Mara stood in the doorway. She looked almost the same. Same dark hair, pulled back, same freckle near her left eye, but her skin looked paler, and her eyes had a softness like she'd been crying for a long time. "Jonah," she whispered again, smiling faintly. "You found it." My knees nearly gave out. "Mara, oh my God, where have you been?" She stepped into the room slowly, like she was afraid of startling me. "Here. This place sent St. Elias. What is it?" She glanced toward the window where snow swirled beyond the glass. "It's safe." "No," I said, voice breaking. "You vanished. We thought you were dead." Mara's smile flickered. I was tired. The words landed wrong, simple, childlike. Not Mara. Mara who used to rant about politics and laugh too loud. Mara who never used small words for big things. I stepped closer, reaching for her. "Come with me. We'll go home." Her face softened into something like pity. "You can't go back the same way." "I don't care. We'll figure it out." She shook her head slowly. "Jonah, you're exhausted. You've been carrying me like a box." My throat tightened. "What are you talking about?" She gestured toward the trailer outside, invisible through the snow. "All my things, like if you stack enough objects, you can rebuild a person." Tears burned my eyes. "I just wanted you back." "I know," she whispered. She stepped closer until I could smell her, wood smoke and something faintly metallic like cold iron. "You should rest," she said. I shook my head hard. "No, we're leaving. Now." Mara's gaze drifted to the ledger brochure on the table. "They won't let you." "Who?" "The town," she said softly. "It keeps the weary." I backed away. "Mara, please, this isn't you." Her expression tightened, a flash of something cold beneath the softness. "It is me. Just quieter." Downstairs, I heard a murmur rise, like voices gathering. Mara's eyes flicked to the door. "They know you're here." "Good," I snapped. "They can explain how a town shows up on a mountain pass that doesn't exist on maps." Mara flinched. "Don't say that." "Why not?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because if you name what it is, it becomes harder to forget, and forgetting is how it keeps you comfortable." My mind spun. Comfort. Rest. Weary. A trap disguised as kindness. I grabbed Mara's wrist. "Come on." She didn't resist at first. Her skin was cold. Too cold. We moved down the hallway past doors. As we descended the stairs, the lodge below was quiet again, but not normal quiet. Expectant quiet. The innkeeper stood by the front desk, hands folded. The woman who'd welcomed me stood beside him. Guests sat in chairs, all facing us, like an audience. The innkeeper smiled. "Did you find what you were looking for?" "I'm leaving," I said. Mara's grip tightened on my arm, subtle but insistent. The innkeeper nodded. "Of course, but first you must check out." "I didn't check in." He smiled wider. "Everyone checks in." He gestured toward the ledger. The pen waited. Mara leaned close to my ear. "Jonah," she whispered, voice trembling now. "If you sign, you'll stay. But if you don't, they'll make you drive until you come back." "What happened to you?" I whispered back. Mara's eyes filled with something that looked like real fear. "I got tired, and they made it feel okay." The woman stepped forward, her smile kind. "It's a storm, dear. Roads are dangerous. Stay the night. No one will hurt you." I looked at Mara. She looked at me like she wanted to beg, but didn't know how. I thought of her name in that ledger. Room 12. The mug. The impossible warmth. "Let her go," I said to the innkeeper. The innkeeper's smile faded slightly. "She's checked in." "She didn't consent." The innkeeper tilted his head. "We offer rest. People accept." Mara's voice came out small. "Jonah, I don't know if I can leave." My chest tightened. "Try." The guests' heads turned slightly, synchronized, tracking us. The lanterns outside the lodge windows glowed steady, white and patient. I made a decision that felt like tearing something in my own body. I released Mara's hand. Her eyes widened. "Jonah, I'm sorry," I whispered, and it tasted like blood. Then I ran. I burst out into the snow, sprinting for my truck. The wind slapped me, cold and alive. The snow stung my face. I fumbled with my keys, hands numb. The truck door opened. I threw myself inside, slammed it, started the engine. The headlights cut through swirling white, illuminating the street. And there, lining the road out of town, were the white lanterns, dozens of them, leading like a path. Not guiding, marking. I backed out and drove, tires slipping. In the rearview mirror, the lodge stood glowing, warm and inviting. And in the doorway, Mara stood watching, not chasing, just watching like she'd already accepted the ending. I drove out of St. Elias, following the lantern-lit road up toward the pass. The storm thickened as I climbed. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The truck struggled, engine whining. The lanterns continued, evenly spaced, each flame unwavering despite the wind. It felt wrong. Flames should flicker. I crested the ridge, hands shaking, and the road dropped on the other side. Then the lantern stopped. Just ended. Ahead was nothing but white. I drove anyway, praying to hit the main highway. Minutes passed. Then, an hour. The fuel gauge didn't move. The clock on the dashboard read 1:12 a.m. It stayed 1:12 a.m. My throat went dry. "No," I whispered. The radio clicked on by itself. Static. Then a soft voice repeating like a lullaby. "Rest for the weary, rest for the weary." I shut it off, heart pounding. Then the snow thinned. I emerged onto a familiar highway, street signs, reflectors, the comfort of reality. I laughed, shaking, tears freezing on my cheeks. I drove until I reached a town I recognized, pulled into a motel, and sat in the parking lot with the engine running, afraid to turn it off like sleep might swallow me. In the morning, I called the police. I told them everything, leaving out the parts that sounded insane. A town on the pass, a lodge, my sister. They took my statement with that tight politeness people use when they're humoring you. I searched maps. No St. Elias, no lodge, no church. I drove the pass again 2 days later in daylight. No turnoff, no hollow, only snow and rock and pines. I told myself I'd imagined it. Grief, exhaustion, hypothermia. Then I unpacked the trailer. Mara's mug was gone. Not missing from a box, not broken, just gone. And tucked into the bottom of one cardboard box beneath her sweaters, I found a brochure printed on thick paper. St. Elias Lodge. Rest for the weary. On the back, in handwriting I recognized as Mara's. Don't come back for me. If you do, you'll get tired too. That night, when I tried to sleep, my dreams were filled with white lanterns glowing steadily in snow, waiting for me to admit I was weary. And sometimes, when the world is quiet enough, I swear I can hear a soft voice on the edge of my hearing, repeating gently, "Rest for the weary." Like the past remembers my name. My name is Lena Moreno, and I thought the worst part of moving cross-country with your boyfriend was the arguing, whose turn it was to drive, whether we should have packed less, why the GPS kept insisting on toll roads. I didn't know the worst part would be arriving in a town that smiled like it had been hungry for us. We were 2 months into a slow breakup neither of us would admit was happening. Mason and I had been together 4 years, and in the last 6 months, we'd become experts at talking around things. We'd planned the move from Indiana to Oregon like it would fix us. Like changing scenery could patch cracks in a foundation. We rented a small box truck, loaded our lives into it, and started driving west with the kind of optimism that only exists before reality catches up. By the 3rd day, the optimism was gone. We drove through endless farmland under a gray sky, corn stubble poked through dirt like broken teeth. The road was straight and dull, and the cab smelled like fast food and stale coffee. Mason drove, jaw tight, hands at 10 and 2 like he was taking a test. "You should check the route," he said, voice flat. "I have been," I snapped, phone in hand. "It keeps changing." The GPS had been weird since morning. It would show us on I-80, then suddenly claim we were on an unnamed road running parallel. The voice prompts would lag or repeat. "Recalculating," it said again, cheerful and wrong. "Recalculating." Then the screen froze. Mason glanced at it. "Is it dead?" "No," I said. "It's stuck." The map had zoomed in too far, showing only a blank beige space with our blue dot in the center. No roads, no labels. My phone showed no signal. Mason's too. We should have had service. We weren't in the mountains. This was open farmland. Mason grunted. "Great." The road narrowed, asphalt turning older. We passed a sign that read, "Harvest Road, local traffic only." Mason slowed. "Is this the interstate?" "No," I said, frowning. No. We're off it." He glanced at me, irritation flaring. "How did we get off it?" "I don't know," I snapped. "Maybe you took an exit." I didn't. We argued, small sharp words bouncing around the cab, until we both fell silent, anger souring into unease. The farmland changed. Fields gave way to orchards, rows of bare trees, branches twisting like hands. Then came tall, dead corn stalks, still standing in neat lines despite the season. The air smelled sweet and rotten at once, like fruit left too long in the sun. A town appeared ahead, low buildings clustered around a grain silo. A wooden sign stood by the road, painted white with red letters. "Welcome to Brightwell, but please don't waste." Mason frowned. "Brightwell? I've never heard of it," I said. We rolled into town. Brightwell looked like a postcard. Small storefronts, a diner with a red awning, a church, a feed store. Pumpkins were stacked everywhere, on porches and windows, lining the sidewalks like decorations left up too long. Some were fresh and orange, others were collapsed, black with rot, leaking into the cracks of the pavement. People moved in the street. Not many. They smiled at us as we passed. Their smiles were wide, practiced, and held too long. My stomach tightened. "Why are they smiling like that?" Mason didn't answer. His grip on the wheel tightened. We found a gas station at the edge of town. The pumps looked old, but the digital screens glowed bright. Mason pulled in and cut the engine. The sudden silence made the truck feel smaller. We got out. The air smelled like damp earth and something metallic underneath. A man stepped out of the gas station office, wiping his hands on a rag. He was thin, middle-aged, wearing coveralls. His face was sun-creased, his eyes bright. "Afternoon," he called. "Passing through?" "Yeah," Mason said, forcing a polite tone. "Need gas, and directions back to the interstate." The man's smile widened. "Interstate's a ways, but you're on Harvest Road. Takes folks here sometimes." "Takes folks?" I repeated. He chuckled. "Road's got a mind, I suppose." Mason laughed weakly. "Right." The man stepped closer, eyes flicking over the truck, the trailer, our tired faces. "Moving?" "Yeah," I said. "To Oregon." "Oregon," he repeated like it was a strange word. "That's far. Must be tired." Mason started pumping gas. The numbers on the screen climbed, but the tank meter on the truck didn't move. "Is this thing even working?" Mason muttered. The man smiled. "Oh, it works. It just works in its own way." I felt a prickling on my skin. "What do you mean?" He leaned closer, voice lowering as if sharing a secret. "Brightwell's a good place to rest. Folks come through when they've got too much on them, too much to carry." Mason straightened. We're not staying, just need the road. The man nodded slowly. Of course, of course. A woman appeared in the gas station doorway behind him, younger, hair pulled back, holding a clipboard. She smiled brightly. New arrivals? She called. The man turned to her. Yep, passing through. The woman's eyes flicked to me, then Mason, her smile sharpened. We should log them. Mason frowned. Log us? The man waved a hand. Just town stuff, keeps things tidy. The woman stepped closer, holding the clipboard out. Names, please. Mason's jaw tightened. No, we're not signing anything. Her smile didn't fade. It's not for you. It's for Brightwell. I took a step back. The pumpkins along the sidewalk seemed to watch us, their hollowed shapes like open mouths. We'll pay for the gas, I said quickly, and go. The man nodded. Sure. Mason finished pumping, though the screen now read a number that didn't make sense. Far too high for the tank. He frowned, tapped the screen. It didn't reset. Whatever, he muttered. Let's just go. We climbed back into the truck. The engine started, but the dashboard clock blinked and stayed blank. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, hopeful. No signal, but a notification had appeared anyway. A calendar reminder. Brightwell Harvest Dinner. Tonight. 7 p.m. I stared, heart thudding. Mason. What? I showed him the phone. His face tightened. That's weird. The GPS screen flickered back on. The map was still blank, but now in the center, where our blue dot sat, a label appeared. Brightwell, no roads. Just the town name, floating like a pin in empty space. Mason put the truck in gear and drove out of the station. We followed the main street toward the edge of town where we'd entered, but the road didn't leave. It curved, gently, and brought us back past the diner. Mason cursed. What the? We drove again slower, watching for the exit. Same thing. The road looped. The town stayed. Brightwell didn't have an edge. It was a circle pretending to be a line. My throat tightened. Stop. Pull over. Mason pulled into a parking spot near the diner, hand shaking. We sat in the cab, staring out at the town. People walked by, smiling, carrying baskets of apples and squash like it was harvest festival season. Their faces looked tired up close, eyes bruised, skin pale, but the smiles stayed fixed. The diner's door opened. Warm light spilled out. Laughter drifted, real laughter, inviting. A woman stepped out and waved at us. You should eat. Mason swallowed. No. I whispered, what is this place? Mason rubbed his face hard. It's a town. We're just lost. GPS is bugging out. But his voice lacked conviction. My phone buzzed again. Another reminder. Brightwell Harvest Dinner. Tonight, 7 p.m., don't be late. The words, don't be late, weren't in my calendar style. They looked typed by someone else, bold and insistent. My hands trembled. Mason opened the glove compartment, rummaging for an old paper map we'd thrown in there as a joke. He unfolded it on the wheel. We traced our route, Indiana, Illinois, Iowa, the interstate, the farmland we'd passed. Brightwell wasn't on it. Harvest Road wasn't on it. The blank space where Brightwell should have been was just that, blank. Mason's face went pale. Okay. Okay, what? Okay, he whispered. This is not normal. We sat in silence, the weight of that settling over us. At 6:30, as the light outside began to dim, the town changed. Lanterns lit along the street, orange light in glass jars. Shadows deepened. The smell of rotting fruit grew stronger, clinging to the air. People began moving toward the church at the center of town, carrying dishes covered with cloths. They looked like they were heading to a potluck. A man passed our truck and knocked lightly on the window. Mason flinched. The man smiled through the glass. His eyes were too bright. It's almost time, he said. Mason cracked the window an inch. Time for what? The man's smile widened. Dinner. Don't waste. What does that mean? I asked, voice shaky. The man's gaze flicked to me. Brightwell doesn't like waste, he said softly, as if that explained everything. Not food, not effort, not people. My stomach lurched. The man walked away. Mason looked at me, fear naked now. We have to get out. Now. He started the engine and drove hard, accelerating down the street, ignoring the people crossing. No one jumped out of the way. They just weren't in the way when we reached them, like the town adjusted. We reached what should have been the exit. The road stretched into darkness between orchards. Mason drove onto it. For 5 minutes we saw only trees and darkness. Then we passed the Brightwell sign again. "Welcome to Brightwell, please don't waste." My breath hitched. It looped. Mason's hands shook. It looped again. He slammed the wheel. "What do they want?" My phone buzzed. 7 p.m. The reminder popped up, filling the screen. Brightwell Harvest Dinner, now. The truck's engine sputtered. Mason cursed, pumping the gas. The engine coughed, then died. The headlights went out. We sat in sudden darkness, the cab cold and silent. Outside, lantern light moved closer, soft orange glows bobbing toward us, footsteps, murmuring voices, the smell of apples and rot. Mason grabbed my hand hard. "Don't open the doors." We listened as the footsteps surrounded the truck, a gentle knock on the driver's window, then another on my side. A voice, warm and inviting. "Come on, you're late." Mason's voice was shaking. "Go away." A soft laugh. "Don't be rude." The knock became a tapping, rhythmic, like someone drumming fingers on glass. "Brightwell doesn't like waste," the voice murmured. We set a place. My skin crawled. "Mason." He looked at me, eyes wide. "We can't stay here." "I know." The tapping stopped. For a moment there was silence. Then the truck rocked slightly as if someone leaned against it. A voice, quieter now, closer. "If you don't come to dinner," it said, "we'll bring dinner to you." I heard a sound then, a soft scraping under the truck like metal on pavement. Mason's breathing turned ragged. "What are they doing?" I peered out my window. Under the orange lantern light I saw hands, dozens of hands reaching beneath the truck, fingers curling around the frame. Not to lift it, to hold it, to keep it from ever moving again. The church bell rang. Not loud, just a single, deep note that vibrated in my bones. The people outside the truck began to hum, low, steady, like a hymn. Mason's voice broke. "Lena, I can't." I realized then what Brightwell was. Not a town, a process, a harvest, a place where things that were already falling apart came to be finished. My phone buzzed one last time, a new notification. "Thank you for contributing." The truck door handle on my side clicked, unlocked, without me touching it. I stared at it, frozen. Mason whispered, "Don't," but my hand moved anyway, not fully under my control, fingers wrapping around the handle like it belonged to someone else. I pulled. The door opened. Warm lantern light flooded the cab. The smell of apples and rot rushed in. People stood outside, smiling gently, arms open like welcoming family. At the center, the woman with the clipboard held it out, pen ready. "Just your names," she said softly, "so we don't waste you." I wanted to scream. I wanted to slam the door, but my body moved like sleepwalking. I stepped down onto the pavement. Mason grabbed for me, but hands held him back, not rough, just firm, like guiding a guest. "Lena!" he shouted, voice cracking. "Lena! Don't!" I turned to him, tears burning, and I realized with horror that I couldn't remember exactly why we were moving, or where, or what our apartment looked like. Memory began to slip like a rope through fingers. The woman smiled at me. "Name?" My mouth opened. "My name is Lena Moreno," I heard myself say, voice steady, and I thought the worst part of moving cross-country. The words poured out like a practiced introduction. The town hummed around me, satisfied, and somewhere behind the smiling faces, in the dim light near the church, I saw a pile of old clipboards stacked like harvested stalks, each labeled with names that had once belonged to people who swore they were just passing through. And those were 3 small towns that don't exist on maps. Places you can drive into without ever realizing you might not be meant to leave. If these stories made you uneasy, subscribe to Dark Hours for more true horror, lost places, and unsettling stories that feel a little too real. And tell me in the comments, have you ever passed through a town that felt wrong? Until next time, trust your instincts, watch the road signs, and remember, not every place wants to be found.